Hello there, everyone. I'm Ashley Willington, and you're watching the fifth quarter. It's our Friday night wrap-up show where we bring you all the things happening around the Metroplex in the high school sports scene. And high school hoops is well underway, as we know. And the second round of district action is starting where the teams are playing one another once again. And we have Inside High School Sports Insider Ryan Harris to break down those district races with us. Ryan, it's been another big week of district showdowns in the Metroplex and Texas high school hoops, but that 8-6-8 district had a pretty big matchup this week.
Yeah, Duncanville and Richardson. Richardson traveled over to Duncanville, played Duncanville down to the wire. Duncanville had two into the half buzzer beaters, and they hung on to win by 2 points, 70-68 in overtime over Richardson. Of course, Richardson is one of the top-ranked teams in the state, and of course, Duncanville's number one in the state in 6A. That is going to be a massive matchup when those two meet up again later in the season over in Richardson. As we stand right now, Richardson just has the one loss to Duncanville. Duncanville's undefeated, so you assume that looking at the rest of the teams in that district, you'll have a race between Lake Highlands, Richardson, Pearson, Skyline. Two of those three will make the last two playoff spots, but there's really no team in that district that can compete with those two. So assuming that they both take care of business and beat all the teams they're supposed to beat the rest of the way, that matchup could very well decide who takes the district crown, because I believe the tiebreaker comes down to points, and of course Duncanville they only won by 2, so assuming they lost by 3 or more, I believe Richardson would take the crown from the number one team in the state, and that would be pretty unprecedented. Not to say that they're a bad team, but Duncanville, obviously after winning state last year, and then having such a good team this year, having all that talent, I don't think anybody really thought of them potentially losing district, but Richardson has shown that they're a team that could beat this Duncanville team and could win this district.
And there's still an undefeated team here in the district, here in the Metroplex, not just the district, but in the Metroplex.
Yeah, over in 5A, it's Newman Smith, and they've had a great year. They're undefeated in, obviously in district as well. They're sitting at the top of district, 11-5A. They just beat Highland Park on the road. Highland Park second in that district. They've got the one loss to Newman Smith being undefeated. And then Woodrow Wilson's 4-2, and Conrad is 3-3. Those are probably going to be your 4 playoff teams. All Newman Smith needs to do, again, this is another situation like we just talked about with Duncanville and Richardson, but Newman Smith will get Highland Park at home instead of having to go and beat them on the road. And they should be able to take care of business and be the number one seed in District 11-5A. You're going to want to watch them in the playoffs, because they could have a deep playoff run. They're a talented group, and this is, again, one of those teams that, we've been talking about those kinds of teams this year, whether it be LD Bell or, whoever, and Newman Smith is one of those teams.
Definitely, Trinity was that team last year, as we saw them make it all the way almost to the state, almost to the state regionals, or the regional finals. So are there any other big districts that you've been watching this week, or any other districts that have really kind of piqued your interest this week?
Well, of course, we're always keeping an eye on Grand Prairie's district, because of course, they are the favorites to take that district, but it is maybe the deepest district in the state. I think I've talked about it every week with you. DeSoto really may be the favorite, or not the favorite, but they may miss the playoffs for the first time in quite a while. It's going to be, them, Cedar Hill, Mansfield, South Grand Prairie, Williamson, Grand Prairie. Only 4 of those teams can make it in this district. Of course, Lake Ridge and Summerlin at the bottom of that district. You start looking at it, you assume Grand Prairie and Waxahachie, they're pretty much in. That leaves 2 spots, and South Grand Prairie's 4-2. I don't see them missing the playoffs. So now it comes down to Mansfield, Cedar Hill, and DeSoto, and they're going to have to, they've got to take the rest of their games remaining on the schedule against Mansfield and Cedar Hill, and take care of business against Lakeridge and Summit as well if they want to make the playoffs. So I'm keeping an eye on that one. I'm keeping an eye on 3-6A with LD Bell and Trinity. I mean, you just talked about Trinity from last year being a surprise team in the state, and they're doing it again. I mean, they're not on that same level exactly, but they're having another good season, so they could potentially push Trinity. Of course, LD Bell still has to play at Trinity later in the season, and then I'm really intrigued to see if Grand Prairie and Newman Smith in 5A can finish out district play undefeated, as well as Duncanville. I'm going to be watching that Duncanville-Richardson game later in the season there.
And then last week, the list of 900 girls from around the U.S., 31 being from the Metroplex for All American nominees, and 2 Metroplex women have been named to the McDonald's All American Team. Hannah Gusters, as well as one other girl. I'll let you get more into that and that selection.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, the McDonald's All American game really is one of the premier high school sporting events, in the nation just throughout the whole year. It was, Hannah Gusters named, the Baylor commit was named earlier this week, along with Deja Kelly, who's the UNC North Carolina commit from Duncanville, and they're both incredible players. And it's just such an honor to be named to that game and to say I was on McDonald's All American. I think they both sent out tweets about it too. There was like, I can't believe I was named to the McDonald's All American game essentially, and it's just such an honor. And just being from Texas, being from the Metroplex, I'm proud to say, hey, we have these 2 girls that are going to represent DFW in this prestigious event. Last year you had a lot of guys go and represent. We didn't have any guys this year, but shout out to these girls for being named to this game. That's a really, really high honor, and I'm looking forward to their collegiate careers. I'm sure they're going to go on to do great things.
Ryan, thank you once again for joining us on the 5th quarter. The Keller High School girls basketball team has put together a pretty good season so far, and we have their head coach on with us to talk to us more about her team.
Don't forget to catch our extended coverage of the high school football season each week on The Warm-Up, presented by your local North Texas Geico agents. We will get you ready for all the action this Thursday on all our social media outlets. Watch Inside High School Sports to catch this week's MVP, brought to you by GiveMeTheVin.com. These MVP athletes make it look easy, just like GiveMeTheVin.com makes it easy to sell your car.
The Keller Indians girls basketball team has put together quite a season so far, and head coach Kate Goldberg talks to us about her team's performance so far.
Following you guys all year, it seems like early in the year we're scoring a lot of points. Really offensively, we're clicking. How is the team now as we're getting down to the stretch run right here ahead of the playoffs?
Right, teams are starting to figure out that we like to run, so they're trying different things to slow us down, try to manipulate a slower paced game, which, our score has kind of fluctuated a little bit, but still we, like to wear them down third, fourth quarter, keep them on their heels, keep running, keep the pace as fast as we possibly can, with them walking the ball up the court or, playing a compact zone. But we still love to run. Our girls are in really good shape. They work hard every day to stay in shape. They work on the weekends to stay in shape, so that's kind of one of our big things we've been doing all year.
Well, it shows because in the game it is up and down, and they're pressing defensively, and you really had some success turning them over early too, didn't you?
We did. Our girls are really, cognizant of the next pass. They anticipate really well. That's stuff that we work on a lot in practice. They really compete in practice, which is sometimes hard to get teams to do because they're friends and, but our girls really do get after each other every day. We go against boys twice a week, so that's very helpful. But they're just good athletes. They're competitors. They like to win. They like to play well. So they're in your face the whole game, which is really fun to coach.
I know a lot of folks in the district are looking forward to the rematch with Geyer that y'all have.
We are looking forward to it. Geyer's a great team. She does a really good job over there. A lot of our players play AAU with their players, so they all know each other very, very well. And it's a friendly rivalry, but we are looking forward to bringing him over here and getting a second chance at him.
And then looking beyond that, even I know the playoffs is always a big goal around here. Talk about how far this team you think can go, and what are realistically y'all looking to accomplish?
Realistically, we'd like to get the 1 or 2 seed. Obviously, the Geyer matchup's going to be really big, but every game's big in this district. Every team's going to give you their best every single night, and you've got to win every game. If you don't, that Geyer game's not that important. So we stress, the most important game is the next game. And for our girls, they don't want to stop playing. They love each other. We have one senior on the court, one who's injured right now, but it's all about playing hard for her because she's done the work for 4 years, and it's her turn to go as far as we can possibly take her. And they're doing it. They're grinding every day, like I said. They just want to get her to play as many games as possible.
You bring up a good point. Chemistry is such an important part of any team. Talk about this group of girls. Is this a pretty tight group?
Well, if you can hear them in the background, yes, they're extremely tight, which is interesting because we have a lot of fluctuation in the ages. We're 13 to 18-year-olds. We have 3 freshmen on the varsity. We've got several sophomores, a couple juniors, so we really do fluctuate in the age gap. But our seniors are really inclusive. Our freshmen are very outgoing, so everyone meshes really well. And also our point guard, Cam, is a sophomore. She was our point guard last year as a freshman. That's helpful as well to have a young, role model who's just a year older, but she's been through it for a year and a half now to bring those young ones along. So, yeah, they mesh very well.
Thank you, Coach Goldberg, for joining us on the 5th quarter, and good luck to your team the rest of the way. Up next, we have the producer, Ward Fasold, on with us to talk about what will be coming on tomorrow on Wingstop Inside High School Sports.
The Inside Story is driven by your North Texas Honda dealers. Right now, they can help you get great deals on award-winning Hondas. It's their job to be helpful, so stop by your local helpful Honda dealer today.
Wingstop Inside High School Sports will air Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on NBC5. And we have producer Ward Fasold on with us to talk more about what will be on the show. Wiz, what is coming up on Wingstop Inside High School Sports this week?
We had a lot of close finishes this week, Ashley. You've already talked a little bit about the Duncanville game. That was very controversial, but Duncanville did pull it out by 2 points, and we'll have an interview on that game. And then tonight I just left Louisville, Irving, MacArthur. MacArthur, that was back and forth, and MacArthur ended up hitting their free throws and won that game 58-53, so that was a close one. We're also going to see some highlights from probably one of the best players in the area, definitely for the junior class, Harrison Ingram at St. Mark's. He went his game tonight with 5 straight triple-doubles, and I believe he fell about 4 assists short of getting another triple-double tonight, but still is enough to handle Bishop Lentz. We'll have those highlights. We're going to have a story on the Mesquite ISD, like 4 or 5 schools from Mesquite ISD all participated in a Special Olympics. They were all refs, and you'll hear in the story it's their favorite time of the year. They'll look back on their basketball season and year, and they will talk about how they put smiles on the faces of these Special Olympians as one of their favorite parts of the year, so that'll be good. And for our flashback this week, we caught up with the Musers from the Ticket that used to be on our show, believe it or not. Actually, they were our headline reporters, so they took a second job from the Ticket. The Ticket was their main job, and they've worked a part-time job with us doing stories throughout the Metroplex and football team. It's pretty interesting. It's definitely interesting to see how they looked 25 years ago and how they look now. It's a little salt in their hair nowadays.
Got that salt and pepper going on.
Absolutely.
You said you wanted to talk a little bit about the Duncanville-Richardson game that happened on Tuesday, most specifically about that Richardson team. So what is it about this Richardson team that's really caught your eye?
You know what I like about them, actually? It's their youth and how much confidence they have. Their main players are both sophomores, and they are extremely confident sophomores. Jason Wallace and Rylan Griffin, both not afraid to take big shots. Certainly weren't afraid of Duncanville at Duncanville. They led most of that game and it was because of those two guys. Now, Casey Wallace, you may remember the last name. His brother, Keaton Wallace, played there a couple of years ago. He's now at UTSA. His other, I believe it's a half-brother, Kendall Harris Yancey, played over at Berkner, and he played at Texas and graduated. And they have even another older brother, Terrell Harris, that actually played in the NBA. He played for the Heat. He was actually at the game. I caught him in the stands. So for him, I feel his confidence comes from just, being part of that legacy, that Harris Wallace legacy. And they weren't scared to take big shots, and he isn't either. Now, for Raylan Griffin, this was the first I saw of him live. I saw a couple dunks from him that Ted Madden got on tape against Pierce earlier in the year. But live, he'll spot up somebody and shoot anywhere, everywhere on the court. I believe he got 24 that game. The reason I bring that up is that this Richardson team is somebody to look for, not just this year, but the next couple of years, because these guys are for real. And if they're getting another chance at Duncanville later in the year at home, we'll see what happens there, because they always bring the crowd at home. So that should be an interesting storyline from District 8 5A. They will also be in Region 1. I don't mean to keep on rambling on, Ashley, but Region 1, I'm ready to make some bold predictions about Region 1. You ready for some bold predictions,
I'm
Ashley?
ready. I like predictions, Wiz.
Okay. We talked a lot about 6A, the Louisville, the Coppell, the Irving MacArthur district. I know we've talked a lot about it here on the fifth quarter. I don't think any of them makes it to the regional tournament in Wilkerson Grimes down in Fort Worth. I think the Region 1 is too loaded, and each one of these teams in 6A that we talk about, they have a star, but their complementary players kind of fall off when the game's on the line. So I'm not sure any of those teams, and I'm going to go ahead and predict right now, none of the 6A teams that make the playoffs will make it to the regional finals, which means I don't think any of them will win three straight games to make it to the regional finals.
Interesting hot take there. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out the fifth quarter tonight?
Actually, you know what? I got a chance to catch Arlington Martin girls, who are ranked in the top 5 in 6A this afternoon. A very solid squad, but again, they're going to fall into the Region 1 bracket, and the reason that they're so solid is everybody else in that district is not very good. So they're feasting on the lower end of the girls' basketball there in 4-6A. I think once they hit the playoffs and reach maybe probably round 2 or 3, they're going to stumble upon a team from maybe a DeSoto or a Duncanville that will shut the door on that team. But they are having a very impressive season so far, and there's nothing to hang your head about if you lose to a team like Duncanville or DeSoto or Cedar Hill. By the way, one quick shout-out to our guy, Pox. He went down to the Cedar Hill DeSoto girls game. That first quarter ended, and it was 4-2. So it's tough to bring the people the highlights when nobody's making baskets. But those two teams are solid defensive teams, and their defense is what's going to carry them deep into the playoffs.
Once again, Wingstop Inside High School Sports is on Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on NBC5, hosted by Pat Doney. Until then, I'm Ashley Bullington, and thank you so much for watching the fifth quarter.